Hey everyone, today we're diving into one of the most effective and transformative aspects of fitness, and that is strength training. Whether you're a seasoned lifter or just getting started, strength training is for everyone. It's not just about building big muscles, it's about boosting your metabolism, improving functional movement, and enhancing your overall quality of life. In this video, we will cover what strength training is, the benefits for your body and mind, key principles to follow for results, and essential exercises you can start with today. So grab your water and let's get started. At its core, strength training is any physical activity designed to improve your muscular strength and endurance by using resistance. This resistance can come from weights like dumbbells, barbells, and kettlebells, your own body weight, such as push-ups, squats, and planks, and resistance bands or machines. The goal, to progressively challenge your muscles so they adapt, grow stronger, and become more efficient. But here's the key. Strength training isn't just for athletes or bodybuilders, it's for everyone. Whether you want to lift heavy weights, carry your groceries without effort, or simply feel more confident in your body, strength training has you covered. Let's talk about why strength training is such a game changer. Number one, it builds muscle and burns fat. More muscle equals a higher resting metabolism, which means you'll burn more calories even at rest. Number two, strengthens the bones and joints. Strength training increases bone density, reducing the risks of osteoporosis as you age. Number three, improves functional movement. Think about everyday tasks, lifting your kids, carrying your groceries, or climbing stairs. Strength training enhances your ability to perform these movements with ease. Number four, boosts mental health. Studies show that strength training reduces anxiety, improves mood, and helps combat symptoms of depression. And number five, enhances longevity. People who consistently strength train have a lower risk of chronic diseases, including heart disease and diabetes. So whether you want to feel strong, look toned, or simply move better in daily life, strength training delivers on every front. To get the most out of your strength training sessions, keep these key principles in mind. Number one, progressive overload. This is the golden rule. To build strength, you must gradually increase the weight, the reps, or intensity over time. Number two, proper form is everything. Poor form not only limits your results, but increases your risk for injury. Focus on quality over quantity. Number three, rest and recovery. Strength training breaks down muscle fibers. It's during rest that you rebuild and grow stronger. Make sure you're allowing adequate recovery time, and this definitely includes sleep. And number four, nutrition matters. Fuel your body with enough proteins, healthy carbs, and fats to support muscle growth and repair. Number five, consistency over perfection. Strength training isn't about doing one perfect workout, it's about showing up consistently week after week. Keep these in mind and you'll not only see results, you'll feel them too. Now remember, prior to any strength training, it is mandatory to make sure that your body is warm. So perform at least 5 minutes of cardiovascular exercise prior to strength training. Now that you've warmed up, let's run through 5 foundational strength exercises you can start with today. These moves target all of the major muscle groups and build a solid foundation for strength and stability. The first exercise we're going to get into is the squat. In my opinion, probably the most important exercise in the gym. Because if you perform a really good squat, it helps you with everything else. And the main thing is that it helps you manage your pelvis and your spine. Now, I like to perform what's called a gravity squat. So if I'm standing sideways and I have my nice gravity line posture, where my ears over my shoulders over my hips over my knees over my ankle, I'm in a perfect gravity line. Gravity cannot mess with me. Now, during the squat, I'm literally trying to maintain that perfect posture, but physics would say that I can't, and then I'm gonna fall on my butt, and that is the case. So a perfect squat, when I get my thighs parallel with the earth, a perfect squat is when the angle of my shin will match the angle of my torso. So what I do is I get in my gravity line posture. I want to pull my toes up to make sure that I'm bearing my weight between the ball of my foot and my heel. I'm gonna do a little tuck of the tail. My waistband should be level around my body. And that is the most important part that you're gonna focus on in the squat, is managing your pelvis. And then from there, I'm gonna push the crown of my head to the ceiling. My chin has come in, my eyes are straight ahead. Now, the squat is all about the knees going forward. Your knees are allowed to go one fist width over your toes. You do not keep your knees back. The knees go forward. As a matter of fact, it's my knees going forward that will dictate how low my butt goes down to the floor. When my knees stop going forward, I stop going down. So again, to reset, toes are pulled up, feet are shoulder width apart, pelvis is level around my waistband, push the crown of the head to the ceiling, and now I'm gonna simply push my knees forward, and as my knees keep going forward, I'm letting my butt drop down to the ground. Now here, this is my parallel. If you look at me from the side, my shin angle and my torso angle, they should match. Also, if I were to put a stick on my back, for example, if I would grab this golf club, and if I put this stick on my back, you see everything is touching the stick, okay? And as I get down to my parallel, I want to ask you a question. Has anything come away from the stick? And the answer should be no. And at the bottom there, my shin angle and my torso angle should match. So that is what I would call a perfect squat or a perfect gravity squat. Now, what I would tell you to do is start up, work your way up to 3 sets of 30 with just your body weight. And once you can do 3 sets of 30, now you can start adding a weight. Now the only difference is when you have the weight on your back is I want you to pretend like you're pushing the weight off of your body. And what that does is that kicks in your lats, your pec, your straightest anterior, and that helps you create even a bigger beam-like effect in the upper body. So if I turn sideways, I'm gonna do the same exact thing. Toes are up. Tuck the tail a little bit, push the crown of the head to the ceiling. And now again, it's all about the knees going forward. And by the way, I feel like I'm pushing the bar off my back. And now it's all about the knees always going forward. And as soon as your knees stop going forward, you stop going down. And that's your squat. Once you can get the bar on your back, if you want to start building muscle, you got to start looking into doing reps anywhere from the 6 to 12 rep range, which is more of the bodybuilding range. And that is my favorite exercise in the gym, and the one that I think is the most important, and that is the squat. Now the second exercise is a deadlift, which is actually a bend pattern. Now a lot of people would think that the deadlift is more difficult than the squat, but I beg to differ, it's not, because in a deadlift, you do not have to maintain your gravity line. In a deadlift, you're bending and you're actually breaking the gravity line. But the way I teach the deadlift is a little bit different. Again, I want to make sure before I even teach somebody a deadlift, I want to make sure that they have a very good squat. So during the deadlift, I'm starting in the same position. I'm pushing the crown of my head to the ceiling. My chin is in, my eyes are looking straight ahead. When I do the deadlift, my knees are soft, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to bend forward from the hips. Now, whether you're using a bar, whether you're using a dumbbell, doesn't matter. As soon as you get to about the knee level, and then what you're doing is you're going to go ahead and you're going to sit down toward the ground. So really what it is, it's a bend and a sit happening roughly at the same time. But you got to make sure with the deadlift that you're getting that bend component in first, and then you're going to lower your butt down to the ground. Now, to do a deadlift really safely, you can grab a hunk of skin on your back, so you're pinching a piece of skin, and now when you do the bend and then you start coming down doing your deadlift, that skin should not come out of your fingertips. If that skin comes out of your fingertips, you are now rounding from the back. So to do a really good deadlift, we want to create that, well, to do a really safe deadlift, we want to create that nice beam-like effect with your spine. And now we want to bend down and we want to sit. Now the last thing I'm going to talk about is I'm going to talk about the head, because this drives me crazy. When I see people deadlift like this, when you look up like that, you now slacken all of the fascia in the back of your body. In embryology, when you're forming in your mother's tummy, the first cervical vertebra actually breaks off and finishes between your eyes. And we call that the ethmoid bone, but some osteopaths would actually say that this is C1. In reality, this is C1, but my point that I want to make is that you are actually linked from between your eyes, through the skull, down your spine, finishing on the tailbone. So, if I think about that, if I push the crown of my head to the ceiling and my chin comes in, it's like I have a little helper pulling up on the back of my head. If I take my pelvis and I tuck my tail down a little bit, it's like I have a little helper pulling down on my tailbone. So now I have a helper pulling up and I have a helper pulling down, and in between my two fists is my spine. So I'm literally decompressing my spine when you do this right. However, if you do your deadlift with an arch in your back and with your neck in extension, you have now slackened all that tissue, and now the vertebrae are compressed together. So I'm going to use dumbbells for the example. All right, so you grab your dumbbells. I'm going to turn sideways. I want my hands in front of me. I'm going to push the crown of my head to the ceiling. I'm going to tuck my tail. My eyes are gazing straight ahead. I'm going to soften my knees, and I'm going to slide my hands down my knees. And once I get to my knees, it's more of a sit component. And then I'm going to drive my earth away from me, and I'm going to come up. In reality, my pelvis goes back. I bend and sit. I drive the earth away, and my pelvis goes forward into extension. So I bend, my pelvis goes back. I drive the earth away and come up, and my pelvis goes into extension. I'll do one more. My eyes are straight ahead as I bend and go down. Now my eyes are literally directly right down at the floor. If you look at my spine, it's really straight, and I drive the earth away from me, and my eyes finish straight out in the horizon. And that is how you do a proper deadlift. Now my third exercise is a push-up, great upper body exercise. We can take that push-up and we can change some variables. The first thing I would tell you to do is put a stick on your back so that we actually work your posture and you create this nice straight spine. And the second thing that I would tell you to do is I would tell you to work with different hand positions so that you don't create a pattern overload. So for example, every time you do the push-up, you don't necessarily have to bring your hands so they're right outside your chest and in parallel. You could do some push-ups like that. You could then even take one hand, bring it in front, bring one hand back. On the next set, you could go ahead and you could change your hands around again. You could do a set where your hands are wider. You could do a set where your hands are more narrow, so you're working more of your triceps. The only thing I would tell you is just be careful that you don't always do the push-ups with your hands in the same position to create a pattern overload. Now to do the push-up, I like to do what I call a perfect push-up, where I put a stick on your back, put the entire stick touching your spine. Now from here, whether you're gonna do the push-up off the knees or whether you're gonna go into a full push-up, I'm gonna go ahead and inhale down and exhale up. Inhale down and exhale up. And you notice nothing comes away from the stick. And that's what I would call a perfect push-up. I've even had some cases with a very famous athlete where I would not only put the stick on his back, but I would take a glass of water like that and set one on each side of his spine. And if he moved at all, he would get wet. So that would take the push-up and that would magnify it times 10, because now you really have to work with control of your torso and your abs to do the perfect push-up. And that is how you do a push-up. Now my fourth exercise is a row. It's for your back muscles. Lots of variations. You could do a 3-point row where you're kneeling on a bench. You could be on a cable machine and do a row that way. I'm choosing to do, for this video, the bent over row. And the bent over row, if you actually break it down, is actually a bend pattern. So if I take the stick and I turn sideways and I put the stick on my back, all my feet shoulder width apart, you see the stick is touching everything in my spine. And now I'm going to keep my knees soft and I'm going to bend forward from the hips. And again, if you look at my body, nothing has come away from the stick. So the 3 points of contact is the back of the head, the thoracic spine, and the tailbone. And depending on your orthopedic issues with your low back, it would dictate whether I have a curve back here or whether I have my back more flat. So again, the 3 points of contact on the stick, soften the knees, bend forward from the hips, lock it in, and then from there, you're going to do a row. Now the row, I like to think of it as kind of a scarecrow in a field. So I'm holding onto my dumbbells, I'm holding onto my barbell, kettlebells, whatever you choose to use. I bend forward, and now from here, I'm gonna row up like this. And again, I'm kind of like a scarecrow in a field. Now, the breathing part. If you're lifting dumbbells that are not requiring you to use your diaphragm as a stabilizer, I want you to inhale as you row the weight to your body, because when you breathe in, that's telling your body to go into extension. And that's what we want to maintain. So I'm only doing 15-pound dumbbells here. For me, that's pretty light. So when I do my row, nice straight spine, soften the knees, bend forward from the hips, lock it in. And now for me, I would inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale, inhale and exhale, inhale and exhale. Let's say I was doing a weight that was, that I can only get 4 or 5 repetitions. It would be more like take a breath in, activate the core, up, and then breathe out through pursed lips on the way down. So the breathing would actually change if I was doing a heavier weight where I was having to use my diaphragm as a stabilizer, and that is how you do a row. Now my 5th exercise is for the core, and it's a plank. For me, a plank is a basic exercise that you should be able to hold for 30 to 45 seconds. But once you can do a plank, I think it's time to get rid of the planks because our bodies do not function like that. We have 7 cervical, 12 thoracic, 5 lumbar vertebra, all made to function independently of each other. And I think when you do too many planks, I think it takes that nice architecture and turns it into a column that you would see that's holding up a building. And our spine is not a column, it's a spine. Now for the planks, you got options. You can do a front plank or you can do a side plank. You can do the planks off the forearm, you can do planks off the hands. The further you go away from the floor, the more difficult it is. So for a prone plank, I would tell you to use a stick because I think it's important to keep everything touching the stick. I see people in the gym doing a plank with their head dropped way down, which is just promoting forward head posture. So if I was gonna do a plank, a prone plank off my forearms, I'd put the stick on my back. And now from here, I would try to make everything touch. And then I would just go up and I would go into my plank. And I would make sure that everything's touching the stick while I'm doing the plank. And you can hold again for 30 to 45 seconds. Same thing if you're doing a side plank. I would tell you to make sure that you're in a mirror because you want to be in that nice frontal plane. When people do side planks, because they tend to be rectus abdominis dominant, I see them doing the side plank and they're crunched forward because they're trying to use their rectus abdominis to stabilize. In reality, you want to use the obliques. So I would tell you to go more open. And again, if I put a stick on my back, if I'm in a mirror, my head's in line with my spine, and I'm holding my side plank in the frontal plane. And those are 2 exercises that you can do for your core that I think are pretty basic. And again, if you can hold the planks for 45 seconds, I think that's enough. And then we need to move into a more dynamic type of abdominal exercise. If you're new to strength training, here are 3 quick tips. Number 1, start with body weight or lightweight. Master your form before increasing resistance. Number 2, focus on compound movements. Exercises that work multiple muscle groups give you more bang for your buck. And number 3, don't skip the warm-up and cool down. Always prep your body before lifting and stretching afterward to prevent injury. And most importantly, be patient with yourself. Strength training takes time, but every rep brings you one step closer to your goals. Before we wrap up, let's bust 2 common myths. Number 1, strength training makes women bulky. This is false. Women typically don't have the testosterone levels required for bulk. Strength training will help you build lean, toned muscle. And number 2, cardio is better for fat loss. This also is false. Cardio is great, but strength training helps you build muscle, which boosts your metabolism and helps you burn more fat long term. Strength training isn't just about lifting heavy weights. It's about building a stronger, healthier, and more resilient you. Whether you're lifting barbells, swinging kettlebells, or mastering push-ups, every rep is an investment in your health and well-being. Start with the basics, stay consistent, and celebrate your progress along the way. If you found this video helpful, drop a comment below, let me know your favorite strength exercise, and don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button for more fitness tips. Thanks for joining me today. Now go out there, lift something heavy, and keep getting stronger. See you in the next video.